Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome back to Muse and Measure. If you haven't done so yet, hit the guy on the Lotus pedal, if you would. All right, Bill from Lake Oswego asks, how do you sit with an unfinished song without forcing it to become something it isn't ready to be? Great question. And it's very tempting to try to force a song to be finished. And I've had songs that I have sat on for 11 years and then finally said, okay, this one needs to be finished. So the hard part about this is not necessarily forcing it to be finished or abandoning a song. It's really knowing or being self-aware enough when you're in the writing process to ask yourself, is what I'm adding to this, is the direction I'm taking this song speaking the truth that I initially intended in the song? Or maybe the truth changes and you want to radically shift it. But you always have to ask yourself, what does the song want to say? And maybe it wants to say all kinds of things, which is fine. And this is something I've definitely struggled with because there's, songs that I started and I probably finished them too quick and I went to all these crazy different tandems and tangents that I went off on. But I think the real question is the final song something that is a great aesthetic experience for your listener? Do they get some kind of emotional message from it? Or does it sound like something that was just quickly finished and there's a lot of filler there? Or where there are some lines in there that are just like don't say much. There's certain chordal or musical decisions that were just kind of like, okay, resting on cliches and just what would be expected. They were easy ways of finishing the song. Because it's very tempting to just rush and finish a song. Especially if you've got an album due, which I do in August. It'd be very tempting to, okay, this song, I'll just write a quick 8-measure bridge, just go to the 4-chord, sing a little bit higher, and then slightly change the attitude of the A section, and then call it done. But I've kind of learned through the years to not just settle for anything, that I want every part of the song to be as good as it possibly can be. And I want myself, I'm my worst critic and I'm probably my most devoted listener. I want to have things to look forward to in my songs, all throughout the song. Of course, there's going to be moments where you're just like, okay, this is fine. But you don't want to have too many of those. You want to have lots of moments where you're like, oh, that lyric is amazing. Oh, that transition there. That chord that comes up there is a nice surprise. It's like just stabs me in the heart with a new emotion. It just totally shifts things in a surprising way that hits me in an emotional way with incredible emotional resonance. I want all those things to look forward to. I like to call them ear candy. I guess ear candy is maybe a slightly different thing where you put in these little cool things where you like add new instruments, but it also can be ear candy that like, oh, I'm really looking forward to how that bridge shifts into a completely different feel, into a different genre, into kind of a different universe, that it's like something to look forward to. And I like to surprise listeners that way in my music, that they think they're listening to this type of song, then all of a sudden it switches on them. Now, sometimes I go too far with that. And maybe I'm just being too experimental and I really should just keep it simple. That's the real challenge of being songwriters, because once you set out on a certain path with a song, of course you can abandon it and come back to it later if it just is not working. But sometimes it will work and keep working, but when you end up with the end, you're like, what the hell is this? What did I just create? And you might really like it, but you're not sure that anyone else will. And so I guess the real question is you've got to decide, who are you writing for? What is your intention for the song? What do you want to communicate? And maybe don't exceed what's necessary to communicate that. And maybe that will make it easier to finish something. But I think it's totally fine too to take a break from a song, especially if you're sitting down with it day after day and nothing new is coming out. You just can't think of anything new, or you're not liking what you come up with. Usually though, I will at least get a new line every session, or I'll feel like I get to know how to perform the song a little better. So even if I'm just playing the song over and over, I'm just getting that practice of playing the song. So I'm getting better at playing it. so I can actually know better what actually works and what doesn't work. Because sometimes you're flubbing up, a phrase, or not playing the chords right, or a little lick wrong will be, this what sinks a certain section for you because you just didn't play it right, and so you thought it sucked, but it's actually your playing and your performance that sucked, and not the actual part of the song. So I'd say overall, just like work on a song as much as you can. I like to work on one song at a time if I can, sometimes two. But if it comes to a point where I just can't, I did this recently. There was a song that I have that I started a long time ago and I brought back because I wanted to work with it, but what I've been coming up with it, I haven't liked. So I just said, okay, I'm going to take a break from it, switch to a different song, finish that, and I'll come back to it. And like I said, I've had songs that I've worked on for 20 years, or let alone, and came back to them 20 years later and then finished them. So maybe the initial idea was something that I couldn't do at that time because I didn't have the life experience, or I didn't know how to say it yet. So when is the song finished? When it's finished, and we can just do the best we can. And sometimes we put out stuff that later on we regret. You're like, oh yeah, I definitely finished that one too early. I was a little too quick in trying to wrap it up. That I think there was a lot more to say there. And other times maybe you go too far and like, whoa, where did I go with that? And it just went to crazy town and all this crazy stuff happened. And maybe I was just my imagination was going a little too out of control, and my editor brain was not wrapping it up and saying, no. Let's keep it back to the basics, back to the simple idea you were trying to express. Well, I hope that helps. And if you have any other further questions or want to share your own experience, please do so in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. All right. Best of luck with your songwriting and your spiritual practice. Take care.